What's going on YouTube? Bryce builds it all, your favorite A&P IA and Part 147 instructor. Back with another video. I've been out for a little while. For those of you who are new to the channel, I teach at a Part 147 school or a maintenance school for people looking to become an aircraft mechanic, an A&P, and we have a program for that. Well, recently there has been a development and I have taken over as the program director, program coordinator. It's kind of an interesting position, but anyways, I've had to take over as that, and there's just a lot going on with the start of this semester, so I have been very, very busy. But this weekend I had to come out to the airport and I had to get an annual done on this beautiful Cessna 140 you see behind me. I'm gonna give you a little bit of a history on this aircraft, and I want to talk about owning classic or aging aircraft and how I feel about it, how I feel about these older airplanes. So if that interests you, stick around. I will start this video by praising older aircraft, and then I will get maybe just a smidge critical because you deserve to hear both sides of the story. So this aircraft was a I think it's a 40 something. I'd have to double check the records for it, but this is a 1940 something Cessna 140A. It does have metal wings on it. Many of the 140s were fabric wings, but this one has metal wings. You really cannot see anything in here. This is just, there you go. There's the panel, you know, really just a nice old aircraft, just a cool old school airplane that doesn't have a lot going on. And I really like this airplane. Now, if you can believe it, this paint job, this black paint job, not a huge fan of black as it's very hot here in Texas where I'm located, and black, well, in the summertime it's going to absolutely bake you. It also has a negative effect when it comes to fabric. You don't really want to paint fabric black. You can, I mean, there's nothing that says you can't. It's just black is going to attract a lot more UV light, and it's going to age the fabric and the airframe a little bit quicker. But you would be surprised to find out that this paint job on this Cessna 140 is like 50 years old. And I'm not exaggerating. This is a lacquer paint job that was done a long time ago. And the owner of the aircraft has just buffed it and polished it as the years have gone on to keep it looking in pretty nice shape, if I'm honest. But how I feel about old aircraft is really pretty simple, and that is, like I said, I love them, but I love them for an interesting reason. They are very simple. There's just not a lot to go wrong with them. There's not a whole bunch of extra equipment. There's not a lot of extra things on them. Yes, they're very simple. The point of that is to say you're a little restricted on what you can do with them for that reason, but they're simple. It's just what you need to get airborne. This thing doesn't even have a vacuum pump. It just has this cool little Venturi thing on the side, which is mechanical and works from the basic Bernoulli's principle to get the vacuum instruments to work. So with that said, because they're not very complicated, there's not really a lot to break. So when they do break, it's usually something really small and really simple that's really easy to get to. Recently, I was doing an annual on a Cessna 210, and I posted a small video where the exhaust was leaking, and it is a major undertaking to fix that exhaust. I'm still working on it. But the Cessna 140, if the exhaust was leaking, if I had some sort of issue inside the heat exchanger, it's actually pretty easy to get in there and fix it. So with that being said, with the simplicity of these older aircraft, it's not going to be as hard to repair them when they do break. It's not going to be as time consuming. It took me maybe 5 minutes to get all the panels off the wings and to get the interior out of it. That's just how simple the aircraft is. That's how simple things go together. Little post-editorial note. I want to mention that while I'm speaking about aircraft, I'm not speaking about this 140 specifically. I'm speaking about antique aircraft in general and as a whole. Now, I must be critical. This is an aging airplane, and that does come with some problems. By the way, 140s are tail draggers. If you didn't know, they're predecessors to the Cessna 150, which was a very popular aircraft. But before the Cessna 150 was the 120, which is a 140 without flaps, and then the Cessna 140, which obviously has flaps. The more you know. Anyways, so this aircraft, it is aging, and because of that, some of the parts that were put on it when it was brand new have been superseded and replaced. One of the examples for that is the style Goodyear brakes with floating rotors that are on these wheels. They take a special wheel, they take a special disc, they take a special pads and all kinds of things like that. Now, the owner of this aircraft has been collecting parts for them for years and years and years. So if anything needs to get replaced on the brakes, he has them. And if you're buying one of these aircraft, you would hope that you get a whole bunch of parts with them, because finding parts for these airplanes can be very, very difficult. Now, I do have good news for you. There are supplemental type certificates, and STCs is what those are called, out there to put, say, Cleveland brakes off of a Cessna 150 onto these main axles so that you don't have to find those parts. But with that is going to come a little bit of this. So while the aircraft are, in my opinion, much cooler and much more simple to work on, sometimes getting parts for them can be kind of difficult. But on that, I have some good news, and that is that the FAA has recently laxed, I'm not going to say laxed, but they've recently put out publications regarding owner-provided parts or owner-produced parts for aging aircraft, and said, look, if you own an aircraft that's older than, I want to say it's 1958, it might be 1960, and you can't get parts for it, they have made it a lot easier for aircraft owners to manufacture the parts they need for their aircraft with the help of a mechanic, or even just on their own, or owner manufactured parts, if you will, which some aircraft, not really this 140 because they're really popular, but some aircraft like maybe a Globe Swift, you're gonna have to be doing a lot of that because you're just not going to be finding parts like rudder attached brackets or rudder hinges, whatever it may be. Like when something more major breaks, you might struggle a little bit more to find parts to fix it, but the FAA has put out data for that to make new parts. So good and bad, yes, you can make the parts on your own, but the bad side of that is if anything breaks, you have to figure out how to make the parts for it. So that can be kind of now tough. With those thoughts, I like to wrap this up by saying, and I already kind of mentioned this, I love these old aircraft as an aircraft mechanic, as an IA. I like old conventional gear aircraft. I also like, experimentals like RVs and whatnot. And I'm not going to go shining my camera into somebody else's hangar, but right across the taxiway from me is an open hangar right now, and in it is a V8 biplane that's really cool, a liquid-cooled V8, and then right next to that is a Piper Super Cub, which is also an airplane from the 40s. And the reason that these aircraft are so popular, Aranca Champs, Piper Cubs, Cessna 140s, 120s, Cessna 195s, is not just because they're so cool, it's just because they don't make them like this anymore. There is almost no plastic on this airplane. Everything is old school, everything is robust, and it has lasted over 80 years because it was just built so good in the first place, in my humble opinion. Now, obviously some of them, you have to maintain them. Some of them are wrought with corrosion throughout the fuselage because they were stored outside or because they lived a hard life. But some of these aircraft have been taken very well care of, like this one. The owner of it has owned it for like 50 years, I think. He's actually the one that had it painted, and he's taken very good care of it. So he has very good records for it. And anyways, there's just something to be said that's for a classic that's been around for 80 years. Anyone can go buy a Cirrus, but it's a little tougher to get an old airplane like this and keep it flying. And I will leave on this note, this is not his only airplane. He does also own a newer 172 that he does flight training in, but that's kind of besides the point. So there you go, everybody. Like I said, I'm back. I'm gonna try to get back to making some videos. Reminder that we do have t-shirts and merch available for the channel. I'm gonna try to get back to doing some of my A&P demonstration videos and whatnot. It has just been very, very busy with the start of a new semester. I'm in class all day, and then I've been working on the weekends, but you didn't ask, you don't care. It is what it is. I will see y'all very soon. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you leave us a like, leave us a comment, subscribe, all of that good stuff. Go buy yourself a shirt, and I will see you soon. Go build something and be easy.